Good evening, folks, and welcome to Here's the Deal. I'm Shiloh, and joining me tonight is my brand new co-host, Marvin Lepp. How are you, Marvin?
Good. How are you? A little
Pretty good.
interesting to do it live in person.
Yeah, we're live. We're here at Marv's house doing our thing, and so tomorrow I'm going to be flying out to Missouri. And with that being said, I'm just going to show one more time here our slides. The plan revealed August 16th and 17th down there in Springfield is Mike Lindell is doing the Election Crime Summit. And so I'm going to be down there speaking for North Dakota, and that'll be on the 16th and 17th, so Wednesday and Thursday. And it is important, if you guys wanted to check it out, go to the lindellevent.com and you can use our promo code here, HTD, and it's free to watch. It'll be on frankspeech.com. So just go to the Lindell event there and it'll walk you through how to watch that there. So with that being said, Marv, we've got a pretty good show tonight, don't we?
It'll be interesting.
Yeah. So tonight joining us is going to be Jason Heitkamp, and I'm excited about it because I don't really know Jason. So he's always been a wealth of information from what I've known. I know you and him get along really well. And so this was Marv's idea for the show. So with that being said, let's bring on Jason Heitkamp. How are you, Jason?
I'm doing well.
I think you need to turn your camera. There you are.
I'm on. Voila.
There he is. How are you, Jason?
Good. No, I'm very good. I'm excited to be on tonight. And I don't know if you see this or not, but I am not the chairman of the GOP. That's my heading for the night. So whatever we talk about, I am not the head of the North Dakota GOP. So.
Right?
That works. Well, I'd like to think that I'm the head of some things too, but I'm not. So I can agree with you on that. So with that being said, Marvin.
Well, it's kind of going to be a rolling night here, Jason. I know you and I have done a lot together over the last couple of years from pieces of legislation and stuff. So obviously a former North Dakota senator and one of the ones that got nixed through this whole redistricting process, which was not very awesome. But doesn't mean you haven't quit working, because I know you've done a bunch over the last year and a half too.
Sorry.
So I guess, what do you have, or what do you kind of think that you're going to do moving forward? Are you going to run for your office again if that comes up, or are you done doing the legislature?
Well, I appreciate you asking, because I talk to my daughter every once in a while, and I ask her, what should I do? And I got 2 phone calls this last week from individuals, one in the 28th district and one in the 25th district. And both of them said, I know that you're not a state senator anymore, but we're just not getting any help from our local legislators. And so I actually tried calling legislators to see if I could get some help from this person, because it deals with drainage off of land coming right through into his pasture, because everybody around his pasture land feels that his land is worthless, so let's just drain onto his land, And I literally could not get phone calls back from the legislators either. And so I've been putting in a phone call every day as follow-ups, and today was day 3. And, I just said, I might have to get a little bit farther into this and help this person by going to like the soil conservation and stuff like that, and finding out where we can get the help. If we need to go to Armstrong's office or Kramer's office. I just said, it's amazing that I hear these stories now where legislators are not even calling people back.
Well, they passed what 9 or 10 bills this last session dealing with water and property rights.
Yep.
And not a single one of them was good as far as I'm concerned.
Well, and a lot
it
of them
seemed
came
like-
from the 25th district because Cindy Schreiber Beck is my representative in the 25th district, and a lot of this bad legislation came from her.
gross.
Yep.
So
fact,
do
in
you
the
think
60
that's the
in fact,
reason
in the
why?
Oh, I'm sorry. I was just going to say in the 67th legislative session, my district, which was District 26 at the time, had some of the worst water issues and they tried to fix some of the problems, and it turned out to be a real big mess. In fact, the majority leader was the person who put the bill through. He thought it would breeze through, and he thought it would be better off because he was from the western part of the state, and that maybe there wouldn't be as much opposition because he put it in. And everybody from my district showed up and said, "Yeah, this ain't going to happen," you know. So, water issues are pretty tough.
Yeah. Well, especially when you have farmers where they need it for irrigation. You have some of them that are going with the more natural irrigation. Some are just trying to drain off sloughs so that they can grow hay or have pasture land.
Yeah,
Yep.
You know, I mean,
it's true.
water is life, right?
Yes, it is.
But
And some of the land, no matter how much money you stick into it, is never going to be tillable and should never have been started in the first place.
oh, I get it. I mean, I'm from Lair. It's literally puddle country down there.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, what 97 when we had all those thaws? I can't tell you how many dugouts have now become permanent lakes.
Yep. Yep.
So do you think that the reason why you're not getting any response? I know the feeling around the state from the people that I've talked to is that the legislators think they've done such a great job this last session that there's really nothing to talk about.
Well, I mean,
Well,
I think
and
we're
and
already
I said
seeing...
some of these.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Nope.
Go ahead, Jason.
Well, I said some of these legislators, though. And I don't want to use the word off, but like Cindy Schreiber Beck, for example, she works for Ellingson Drainage. It's funny that she has put in some of these bills that are no good, and even like with the carbon capture pipeline, she's slated to make money off the fact that when the pipeline comes through, they're just going to cut all field drainage, and then some drainage has a contract to come in and fix all of it. So they're looking at making a lot of money. And so, they don't want to talk about water issues because it's just going to screw up their plan to fill pockets.
Yeah, carbon, that's a whole different animal, isn't it?
Well, I mean, we have a situation right now that even like in Iowa, they're questioning why they're still having these meetings because North Dakota has rejected the permit to run the pipeline across North Dakota. So right now, these other states are saying, why are we spending all this money on meetings when there's no way to get it to the final destination? This is a pipeline to nowhere. Why are we talking about it? And we need to jump on this to get this thing killed off for good. And
Yeah.
I don't see it. I don't see it happening. I see people sitting back on their laurels.
It'd be real easy for the Legislative Assembly just to repeal the chapter on carbon capture. Just nix it from the Century Code and be done.
Well, I really think that we should be having a special session to address this. And you're not seeing anybody asking for it. I don't know, maybe Senator Magner was asking for it, but I can't name 3 people right now out of the whole legislature that is trying to stop the capture pipeline now.
Yeah, that's true. Everybody's thinking that they got a good victory with the Public Service Commission.
Yeah, but some had already released a press release regarding this, so
Yeah.
they're going to keep pushing and keep appealing and keep walking on people's land because they don't care.
Right.
Yeah, in fact, the carbon capture press release that Marv's talking about, they actually made it look like they won when they lost their permit to come through North Dakota. So their spin on it is really aggressive.
Oh yeah, no, they're going to keep right on coming. So now I asked you this the other day, and I think we should actually look more into it. But like, is this land grab, and we're going to call it a land grab by Summit, is it even constitutionally allowable in North Dakota? Like, I understand. Oh, we lost him.
Oh,
let's give him a minute.
Yeah, if you want to text him and tell him to check his connection because it wasn't that great.
Right.
So, excuse me. Oh, here he comes.
My bad.
There you are.
All right.
I the attorney and you lose the internet. You know, but the attorney general
You're really
is
breaking up,
asking
Jason.
into the owner. Oh, sorry. The attorney general was asked to look into the ownership of the carbon pipeline, and he said he's going to wait until August 1st to do that because that's when the new laws took effect. And now it's the 14th of August today, and they're no farther along, except they were talking in the news today about how he's hired all these people, how they have all of their stuff caught, and they should be looking into the ownership of the carbon capture pipeline now because it's probably an illegal deal. Not only with what Marv was talking about as a pollution, they're trying to bring pollution into the state, but also with the ownership, it's probably illegal to bring it into the state.
Yeah. Well, and that was my big thing that I argued with the legislators. Like back in the 90s, we shot down the Sawyer landfill because they wanted to bring nuclear waste into North Dakota. And now I hear they're talking about doing that again, too. And it's like, we're not a dumping ground for the rest of the country, as far as I'm concerned. Like,
correct.
We don't have smog. We have clean, fresh air. And Jason's gone again.
He needs to restart his phone or something.
Yeah.
So,
but really, well, I'll just keep rambling here. I mean, really, we shouldn't be the nation's dumping ground.
No, and I really feel that's kind of started when Governor Burgum got elected because let's look at his track record from these data centers to, oh, here he is again. All right.
We got you.
But just so you know, I'm not moving around. I am standing steady. I'm standing steady.
Spot?
Yeah, I got her.
All right, perfect. Well, and what we were talking about is like, really, North Dakota isn't the nation's dumping ground.
No.
And it shouldn't be.
No. But, and I was just telling Marv, it really kind of started when our governor was elected. I mean, we can talk about the data centers that are going around, you know, even the
Bitcoin farms.
Right, Bitcoin farms. I know, and I don't have a whole bunch of information on it, but there's another biofuel refinery set up to go by the Williston area, and it sounds like they're going to be dumping waste into the Missouri River. And from what we've seen so far, the chemicals and stuff named, it's all carcinogens. So there again, the dumping ground. We're not the dumping ground for the country, and that's kind of seems like that's the way it's gone ever since he's taken over.
Very much North Dakota for sale.
Yeah.
And if we had a decent health department, okay, they would be working on this, but they're not. They're more, you know, just imagine our governor admitted not too long ago that there's 6,000 illegal aliens in this state. Why haven't they all been thrown out? But they're not going to. In fact, the health department is going to help them live in North Dakota. They should be stopping, you know, the dumping of pollutants into the water. You know, I'd be fine if we had a new ethanol plant. I don't have a problem with that. But they shouldn't be dumping pollutants into the water. Somebody should be watching that.
I agree.
Wasn't he just standing on the border like a week ago down the southern border inspecting that?
Yeah.
Talking about how the Biden administration brought in illegals?
Yep.
I guess if they ran out of pencils, that's why he actually had to go down there, because they ran out of pencils for doing paperwork. and they loaded the plane up with pencils, and then he took them down there for him. So,
Oh my.
Well,
Yeah.
that's
So Jason, I mean, you and I have worked on legislation when you were seated. We've talked about legislation after you're out, and every now and then I call you with crazy ideas. And I got two of them for you tonight. The first one, and this is just kind of a fresher thought.
it's gonna be a good one.
The FDA just approved all this artificial meat. How do we stop that from being legal in North Dakota? Do we go through it from the Department of Ag side of it, through Chapter 4, or how would you go about writing a bill for that?
well, I mean, first I'd have to see if they even tested the stuff. I mean, is this like the COVID vaccine where they don't even test it on people, and then you're supposed to eat it for a year before you find out if you get cancer from it? Because from what I understand, it's made from cancer cells from animals. I mean, is that wrong, or am I wrong?
That's what all the research is saying.
You know, I
But
mean, if it's made from rotten watermelons, I mean, yeah, maybe it's a good product, but maybe it's not. I mean, I don't know. I'm not a scientist, but I don't think that
well,
this stuff has enough testing to be shown as good. And quite frankly, it's like the country of origin labeling. It should be labeled. It shouldn't just be sold as chicken breasts or whatever. And then you
stamped
get home
serial
and
number
find out
stuff.
it's like rubber or something, you know?
Yeah. Because I mean, we're in farm and ranch country. There's no reason this should ever be for sale in our state. We're self-sustaining. Our meat, our product, our food should be offered to sale here first, whether it's farm to market or it's through local grocery stores. God, those are becoming a thing of the past. But I really think that our legislative assembly needs to evaluate this stuff and nip it in the butt before it becomes a thing. Before
Well,
somebody,
and even like this cricket powder now, maybe you guys know more than I do, but it's got a letter value to it. It's like E42 or something like that. They don't even call it cricket powder. They have some new system of E numbers that you're supposed to know what that means, and of course you can Google them, but normal people don't because they don't know what it is. And so then it doesn't even officially say you're eating cricket powder, which has been shown that humans cannot digest. So they're putting stuff in there. They're even talking about putting plastics in food in the future as a good way to keep it out of the landfill. Well, how will that run through your body? I don't know. They're giving us stuff that's inedible to people and telling us to eat it.
They've been doing that for a long time. All you got to do is look at a package on any of your food, and then the last thing it says is made from bioengineered ingredients.
Right.
There's a reason why we have the sickness and obesity and diabetes and all of that. It's because of what's put on our food, and it never comes out. And now the new thing is with Bill Gates and that appeal that they're spraying on all the vegetables and fruits, and I mean it's yeah,
Yeah,
it's
and
been happening for years.
how does that appeal stuff even get to be legal? I mean, I know what you're talking about, Mar, but yeah, this is something that we have to attack from a legislative standpoint, and then we actually have to have a health department that will actually work with us to keep it out of here. They talk about feeding your kids healthy stuff. I don't know if you saw that post I put up yesterday, but it showed people back in the 50s. They're climbing the wall with the pegs and stuff like that.
Yep.
They're doing push-ups. They're doing all this stuff. Nobody even knows what that is anymore. Nobody probably even do it if you ask them to anymore, because they don't even know what the benefit is to their body.
See, the problem in America today is with the food industry that they're doing that stuff because then they want you on the institution of the health system. And let me tell you, even this last week, we've learned how not great our health system is, even right here in North Dakota. When someone can be in tachycardia for 18 days and they keep doing blood work and saying, well, it looks like you either got a viral infection or a bacteria infection, but we don't know where it's coming from.
Right.
We got a problem.
Right.
nobody wants to do anything anymore. It's all about covering things up, and unfortunately, I know a lot about this because I've had to live with it with my health issues with my heart throughout my life. I've been lucky; I have a good team around me, but there's a lot of people that don't, and this is all a big circle. They want us reliant on the institution of healthcare. I mean, let's pick any institution that we want, whether it be healthcare, school, government. It's a dumpster fire, and it's by design. And it's because a lot of people, in my opinion, not saying that it's correct, but from what I've seen in the last 3 or 4 years since I've gotten involved, is a lot of people, they don't even know, they don't know anything because they're just not involved. They got their heads in the sand.
Yeah. I had a gallbladder attack back on July 4th of this year, and I had some friends send me some information, and I've started a new plan where I only eat from 1 p.m. to 7 p.m. every day. And I got some information about how you do a 17-hour fast every day and how that's good for your body. I've lost over 23 pounds just by doing that, you know. And they said, no, just try to eat as many calories as you were before and just eat from that time period. That's what I've been doing. And I tell you what, my pants don't fit no more. So, I mean, is it as easy as that? I don't know. I know that everybody's body is different, but I'm just saying, I hope that I continue to get healthy. So,
Well, and I mean, and that's the thing. I mean, it's medical practice. They're practitioners because really everybody's different. With my stomach, if I don't eat every couple hours, I start having issues.
right.
Because the way my metabolism runs. So like I literally snack all day long.
Right.
And it's not a lot, but by the time you total it up and we've checked it, it's anywhere between 5,000 to 7,000 calories a day I burn through.
Right.
So
here's the thing for me. You know that you're not getting anywhere when you walk into a doctor's office, okay? And you tell them what you've been doing. I have friends and family that go to naturopaths. They do the chiropractic thing, and when you tell a medical doctor that you go to a chiropractor or you're going to a naturopath, that's the end of the conversation. They don't want to hear about it anymore. I went out to see my heart specialist. I've been going for 20 some years out there. And when COVID hit, and I'm thankful that I didn't do it, but we had a pretty healthy debate on whether I was going to take the COVID vaccine or not, because at that point in time, and now mind you, COVID had only been around for 8 months, excuse me, and he was already going for his third booster shot.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, no, I'm not going to do it. I said, here's the thing. I'm out in Western North Dakota, and at that time I was riding horses for a living. I said, I ride in an arena that's 150 foot by 300 foot long. I said, there's two other people in there with me. I said, I'll take my chances. Sure enough, I ended up getting COVID when I got home about 2 weeks later, after I got back from that Mayo visit. And yeah, it was rough. I ain't going to lie. But I still didn't have the COVID vaccine, and I'm glad that I didn't.
Yep.
But I guess my point is when you walk into a doctor's office and you tell them you're trying to heal your body the natural way, they don't want to hear anything about it. If it doesn't have anything to do with giving you a pill or whatever the case may be, they don't want to hear about it.
Yep.
There are some decent ones out there.
Yes.
There are some decent doctors out there, but they're hard to find. And part of that, sorry, Jason.
Well,
Go
I
ahead.
said I even went so far as to go to a nutritionalist, which I've never gone to before in my life.
Mhm.
And I was going to cancel the appointment. My daughter said, "No, Dad, I think you really should go to this nutritionalist." So I went to her and I told her what I had started eating and how I was doing this fasting diet. And she looked at me and she said, "I think what you're doing is the right thing." She didn't have anything to say to me. She didn't try to sell me anything. And I thought, well, we'll just keep going and we'll see how far it gets. So, I said, I think there are some good people out there, but I think there are some other people that are just getting bought and paid for by the pills that they sell, like you said, Shiloh.
Well, and I think you're better off really if you can go private practice versus through the bigger corporate heads that are controlled by out of state.
Very much so. Yeah.
Because even during the whole COVID thing, I mean, there was a lot of good doctors that wanted to say stuff, but because they were worried about losing their job, they never showed up at the meetings. They never testified at the legislature. They never said anything because they had been told
Yep.
it'd be their jobs.
Yep. And by no means am I saying they're all bad. It's just, it's frustrating because 95% of them, it doesn't seem like they're there to help. They're there to cover it up or whatever else. So,
Well,
The-
welcome to the conversations with Jason and I, because we went from artificial meat all the way to this.
yeah.
Well, and the last thing I will say is I was just at the hospital in Breckenridge where they have the nursing home on there, and it had a sign up there. If you're going into the nursing home, you have to wear a mask, and everybody in there's wearing a mask. So we are not listening to even what Anthony Fauci said when he said that masks don't do a darn thing. So they got all these older people living in that nursing home wearing masks. I tell you, it's lucky my dad isn't alive because I would go and rescue him out of that place. There's no way I would allow them to let my dad wear a mask 24 hours a day. There's no way.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I hear you there.
So artificial meat, we go through it through Department of Ag, Chapter 4, you think? 4.1
Well,
technically?
I a lot of the laws are already there. We just have to get somebody to enforce them. And quite frankly, me and Senator Magrum, we put in a bill in the 67th legislative session that if the attorney general wasn't doing his job, that we were going to throw him out. That was a bill, and that was a real deal. And so we need to put a bill in there that says if these people don't do their job, that they're going to be thrown out of office. Although they already could be thrown out of office right now.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
We need some people in there though that'll actually do it.
Yep.
That's the issue there.
Well, in statewide office, that needs to go through impeachment process, right?
That's correct. That's correct.
So your DPI, your attorney general, your governor,
Yeah.
all has to go through impeachment. All right, second crazy bill. This is the one Shiloh's excited
I was gonna say,
for.
let's switch gears here a little bit. This is gonna cause ruffle some feathers, but I like where you're going with this. So
I put a lot of thought into this one.
okay.
And with the overinflated budget that we saw this last year, I actually have downloaded every checkbook for North Dakota for the state from 2010 to present. I don't have May through current. I just haven't had the time to sit and go get that moved over. I did a couple things with it. I broke it down to departments and costs. I also broke it down to what legislators will own what companies and what companies are getting money from the state, but that's a different conversation. And I came down to we spend a lot of money on housing our legislators when sessions end. But then we also spend a lot for travel expenses. We spend a lot for housing when they come in for committee work, stuff like that. And I really got to thinking about it. We were on our way back from the state fair. We went that first weekend. And Sarah and I were in the car and we were talking, and it was 12 in the morning, and she was trying to keep me awake. And did you know that the state elected officers used to live in the Capitol, Jason?
I did. We had this conversation once. Yeah.
Yep.
I have to be honest.
And,
Yep.
and I got to thinking about it, and I'm like, why haven't we invested the funds into building an apartment complex on the Capitol ground for our legislators? And so I'm like, okay, this is just kind of crazy at this point. So I went and pulled the numbers on it. From 2017 to 2023, we've spent $2,875,082 on lodging. For fuel, for their mileage for their trips, we spent $1,397,878 for them to come back and forth to the Capitol. Overall, the Legislative Assembly in the same time period, total finances, stuff like that, was $16,497,647. So literally 26% of the budget that goes to the Legislative Assembly has been on gas and housing.
Yep.
And when you look at the Capitol ground, we can add judicial wings, we can add all this stuff. We got the governor's mansion. Legislators already have their own parking spots. On average, we're spending anywhere between $1,800 and $2,600 for housing when they're in session per legislator that uses the housing. So minus the Bismarck reps and the guys that drive in. Why couldn't we take that northwest corner where it's literally trees and a playground and put up a decent complex? Maybe a 650 square foot studio apartment, throw a couple offices into it, and there's already security on the Capitol grounds. And spend a little money to run an underground tunnel to the Capitol. They have secure coming and going. In the long run, when you start looking at the math and the rise of inflation, really, I think that would benefit the state. I mean, it sounds crazy, but when you start looking at the hard numbers and the overall cost and what we've probably spent over the last 60 years of statehood, we've spent way more than what a complex like that would cost.
Oh, absolutely. And, I said, didn't we have like 2 legislators this year fall and hurt themselves on the ice?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure somebody broke their arm right away in January.
Yeah. Yeah. And, but I firmly believe now they sold us the new governor's mansion on 2 things. One, that it had mold in it, and the other is that they needed security. All right.
Yeah.
Which, of course, after my accident there south of the governor's mansion, we found out that their cameras really aren't worth the crap anyway. So they probably got them from the Senex convenience store, at a reduced rate. But no, I firmly believe that what you're talking about would be a good thing, because I know a lot of legislators, if they live close, they walk, and if they live far away, they drive. And how do you provide security for those people? Because, the highway patrol is in charge of the security for legislators. And so how are they supposed to provide security? I think you're absolutely right.
Well, and one of the other things I propose is like, okay, we have 141 sitting legislators right now, and 27 are Bismarck Mandan area. So if you did 150 unit housing, we'd probably use 115, maybe 120. And you take those other 30 units, you rent it out to these aides, you rent it out to these guys that come in to help during the legislative session, and they could make a little money off of it too.
Right.
But the other thing is if it's a fixed complex while you're in your seat, which is 8 and 8 now, you'd have keys for that. So when they're coming and going for special session, I mean, you'd have your assigned unit, you take care of it. We're not paying for $260, I think, is the average every time that they come in for a commission meeting.
Yep.
Right.
Where they stay overnight, which I don't know where they're renting for $260 a night, but that's ridiculous.
Right.
I think you should go to the state fair and come back at midnight more often if you have ideas like this.
Well,
the one thing
never sleep.
the one thing that Marv was talking about, though, too, is, and I'm not trying to benefit people who are legislators, but it would be a benefit to them, because I can't tell you how many times, even when I didn't have meetings and even when I didn't get paid mileage, I still came out to Bismarck and met with people, and so you would still have the option, I believe, under Marv's plan there, to use that unit, whether you're here for special session or a committee meeting or whatever, which would be a big benefit to the fact that the legislators would get out and get to know people more than some of these guys that just sit in their basement and hope that nobody calls.
Yeah. Well, it's like Sarah goes, well, what about the ones that wouldn't want to stay there? And I'm like, well, I guess that's kind of on them to find their own housing at that point because housing's provided. Well, that'll probably piss some people off too. But I mean, if there's a nice complex with everything that they need,
Right.
there's no reason they need to stay downtown.
Well, and I would be a stickler for this idea, because if you don't want to stay at the complex and it's provided for you and it's a nice place, well, then maybe you're on your own,
Well,
because
if you think about it,
nobody owes you a place.
yeah. And I mean, really, you add a couple conference rooms so the Republicans can have a conference room, the Democrats can have a conference room. You put in a nice workspace and a gym. I mean, I sat and did math on it. I mean, yeah, the upfront side of it would be a little bit expensive, but if you start breaking it down like they do everything else, like when you buy a house, put that thing out over 30 years or 15 sessions, you can't tell me they can't budget for it accordingly.
Well, and one thing that we haven't even talked about is we need to get along when we're legislators.
Yep.
And so when you live in a complex like that, if you had breakfast or dinner or supper or whatever, or you saw people in the hall, every time you see people, you get to know them better and you get to work better with them. Now, I'm not saying that we're all going to come to Jesus and feel the same way, but
Right.
I got along quite well with the people on the other aisle. In fact, I had a couple people that even helped me with my bills from the other side of the aisle. And all it had to do was just getting together and talking to them and letting them know that, you're really not a bad person and that this bill is going to actually help everybody in North Dakota.
Yeah. Well, and one of the first pushbacks I had when I proposed this to a couple people is like, well, some of the legislators will never stay there. And I'm like, well, some of the legislators are almost done because of term limits.
Right.
There was that long pause and they thought about it and they go, you're right, term limits change everything.
Yeah.
And I'm like, if you create the housing where they can live and work together, granted, they can leave, they can go eat, they can go do whatever they want. But if you create that atmosphere, overall, it'll prevent the state from being run by unelected bureaucrats, which kind of is where we're going with everybody changing every 8 years.
Well, and like I said, I'm not trying to say that we would create the Ritz-Carlton, okay?
No.
But the thing is, there could be a gym in there. There could be a coffee shop in there. There could be some things, because once you get 141 people living in the same facility, you might have some extra benefits that people might like after a while. But still, you need to disincentivize these people from wanting to stay somewhere else. Because why? Why is that?
Yeah, I mean,
they're there to serve the people. They're not there to serve themselves.
Well, and just a decent little studio apartment, and away you go. You know, it doesn't need to be a fancy. So, yeah. So, I mean, those are my two crazy ideas. Well, amongst other ones, but those are the two that I really would like to see somebody kind of pick up the ball and run on.
Well, I think it's a great idea, and we've talked about it quite a while ago. But the more I thought about it, the more I thought that it is a good idea. So,
yeah, well, in North Dakota, I mean, Bismarck in January, February, it's a skating rink anywhere you go. So,
and maybe Jason Doctor owns a building somewhere, and we could just contract with him.
Yeah, true enough.
I'm just gonna drink my coffee on that one.
Oh, come on now.
Some people have their place in jail, and some don't ever get there. So that's all I'm going to say.
Yeah. Well, it's unfortunate sometimes.
So, if you were going to get people coming out to events to get more involved locally, what would your first steps be? I know the Sons of Liberty have been doing a lot of stuff up north. I mean, out east, it seems kind of kind of quiet. So what would you do to get more people involved in your direction?
Well, I would like to help more, but I wish I had more time. But even like this year, I was supposed to have summer off, and we've been working 60 hours a week. So, there's just no rest for the wicked, and I guess I'm still qualified to be wicked, I guess. Like I told you, tomorrow's Tuesday, and we're taking off from Montana in the morning. Supposed to make 3 round trips, and then on Sunday I'm supposed to fly out to Fort Walton Beach, Florida for 2 weeks for training, and then come back, and then we start our normal year. So I mean, it's busy. It's busy for me.
Yep. Oh, well, I got you there. I know how that's been since February when we had Dr. Frank here. It's been real busy. So
Yep.
with with the Sons of Liberty, we have a comment here. It says they'd like to start some chapters out in the eastern part of the state. That is true. Um, just from my perspective, I got involved almost 4 years ago. Uh, the very first event that I went was in Williston, and I met. That's kind of when I got started in the Sons of Liberty. They had a booth there, and at that point in time, they were only the parent chapter only had 5 or 6 people. They had enough to start a board, and we started going to. And I'll never forget it because we go to an old warehouse, and it started with 15, and now I think our parent chapter has anywhere from 20 to 60 people every other week at their meeting. But between them and now, we've got 9 different chapters throughout the state. And I'll be honest with you, you hear a lot of things about us that aren't necessarily true. I will tell you this: we've done a lot for the medical staff when COVID hit. We had rallies. We've given money to different school teams for wrestling and baseball. We've raised money for different causes. We're constantly trying to educate people and get people involved. Obviously, I'm part of that, and it's kind of funny that this comes up because I'm very grateful for the Sons of Liberty. They've done a lot for me. And I was just talking with my dad on the way down here because I'm going down to Missouri. And I was telling him, I said, when I got involved 3 years ago, I never thought it would be to this magnitude, and I owe a lot to that of, getting involved with Williston out there and the parent chapter and the stuff that we've done. So there's a lot of people who have a lot of miles between Tioga and all over the state to help get these chapters started. But that parent chapter to me is, how do you say that when there's a few minority that goes out and it starts to spread the fire? That's what we need more of. And obviously it's worked in the last 3-4 years, but we can't quit. In my opinion, we need to keep building that fire and getting people involved. And that, I think, is the biggest issue that we face as not only North Dakotans, but Americans, because there's so many people that they don't even know how our government works. They don't know our Constitution. They don't know how that works. They just don't know. And you ask them, and the first response is, well, all politicians are crooked. Well, okay, that's probably true. And why get involved? Because it's all rigged. Well, okay, that's probably true too, to a point. But if you don't get involved and have your say, it's not going to get any better. In fact, you're going to keep losing your freedoms. Obviously, we've gone down quite a bit, even in the last, since our governor's taken over in 16. Look at the state now. What the stuff that we're fighting, from China coming in to these data centers and all the property rights stuff that fighting, and maybe we were fighting that before. I don't know. I wasn't involved at that point in time. I was one of those guys. I've voted since I've been 18 years old. However, I voted for the letter behind the name because I wasn't informed. So I think there's a real struggle there. And like Marv just asked too, I ask a lot of our guests, what do you think? What's it going to take to get people involved? Because in my opinion, that's the biggest issue that we have, not only in our state, but in our country. And by being involved, I mean getting informed on both sides. There's a lot of people that I listen to, even at work. I don't necessarily agree with them, but we're able to have those healthy conversations. And at the end of the conversation, we might not totally agree with each other, but we know where we're coming from. And I've had a lot of those conversations, and a couple days later, we come back and visit that issue, and there's usually common ground that we can find.
Yeah.
So, excuse me. But I do believe that groups like the Sons of Liberty and the Moms of Liberty, and there's a group called We the People out of Minot too as well, that are just getting people educated. We're holding different deals, whether it be grassroots information on if you're interested in running for office, how to get involved doing that. There's the parliamentarian deal on Robert's Rule of Orders that is going around the state now, that people are getting involved in that too, teaching people how to run a city commission meeting or county commission meeting or whatever the case may be. So we're not just the people that they make us out to be, like we're sitting there drinking
dry in the media,
right? Yeah. We're not just sitting there reloading ammo and drinking beer in our storage units or stuff like that. I mean, we're actually out there doing things. And so I would just encourage people to go out and talk to these people in these groups, and go with an open mind and just listen to what they have to offer. If you don't like it, that's fine. Just go your way then. But yeah, I really encourage people to get involved with a group like that, or even in your local politics, getting on some of these boards like the city commissions, county commissions, school boards. That's where we're going to make a difference, is if we can take our state back through those. I truly believe that.
Well, and I mean, I'm notorious for playing devil's advocate when it comes to politics, and I like arguing the other side of any conversation. Now, I don't do it just to be argumentative.
Mm-hmm.
I like the conversation. I like to be able to see where people are coming from.
Yep.
And then I like finding that common ground, because if we don't find common ground, we don't move forward.
Mm-hmm.
And I know Jason and I, we've gone round and round on different lines of thoughts over the last 3-4 years. And there's sometimes that I'll push back just because I want to see where he stands on something. I know he pushes me sometimes,
mm-hmm.
just like on this housing thing that we're talking about. But at the end of the day, if you can't have conversations, if we just scream and shout at each
Right.
other, if we just believe what's on the news or on Facebook, we can't educate.
Yeah. No,
So-
I
Well,
totally agree.
I just have to tell you that, the difference from the 67th legislative session to even now, there has been a lot of mind change on a couple subjects in North Dakota, like the transgender and all that stuff. But it took that long. But if you were somebody that came out and said the right thing, as we found out later now, that was the right thing we were talking about at the time, you were shown to be some kind of wild individual. And it's the media. And, we have to find a way to get a media source that will promote what we're talking about. But you see, even like up in Minot now, I saw where they raised $42,000, and the first thing is the media jumped on them saying that they were using the money in the wrong areas, and then all of a sudden, the 99-cent reporter comes out and says, well, these guys won't answer my phone calls. And it was just like me 2 years previous, because I wouldn't answer his phone calls either, because every time that he talked to me, he later wrote something that was a lie. So why should I answer his phone?
I had the same problem when I ran for the school board. In fact, it got to the point where, because it was all over Common Core, and I said that I made the statement that our North Dakota standards are just Common Core without the words Common Core in it. And man, I took a lashing in the newspaper. And then the next week, we put them. I sent a deal into a letter to the editor where we put the Common Core standards and the state standards side by side, and it was the same exact thing. And I had our former superintendent in Ray Schools tell me that, well, we have to have some sort of standards. So if it's Common Core, so be it. I was like, this is what we get from our educators.
Well, I mean, it's North Dakota, period. They just rebrand it and name it something else and move on.
So just so you know, Shiloh, it's Shiloh's wrong until Shiloh's right. And then, well, whatever, Shiloh. There's the other bright, shiny light now. So we're going to talk about that now. How Shiloh's wrong about the next bright, shiny light until he's correct. And that really wears a person down. I think that's the hardest thing about trying to start a group or maintain a group nowadays, is you have to continue to have that edge that you want to make things better. And most people, they can't last that. I mean, even another 4 years before we finally get to where we need to be. But how many people are going to stay excited for the next 4 years?
Right.
Well, I mean, even look at you talking about the retirement program. What, 2 years ago already? 3 years? I mean, you've been on that for a long time. How backwards our retirement program was. And this last
I was working on the PERS program. Yeah, I was working on the PERS program for almost 20 years.
Yeah, well, I mean, the 3 years
I've been a there. But I said that's how long it took as we know it. It took almost 20 years.
Yeah, and they still didn't fix it very well. I mean, 7 different bills, 3 of them identical. I think it was still a dumpster fire when it was done.
Yeah.
And they wonder why teachers are teaching in their 80s around here. It's because they can't afford to retire.
Yeah. Well, we probably shouldn't get into that because
that's a whole different rabbit hole for another day.
So, I mean, we can start with the teacher union for starters.
We lost Jason for a second, but
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, Jason was talking numbers with me 3 years ago already, and how backwards and how in debt it was, and
that's why we lose the good ones and we keep the crappy ones.
Yeah.
So,
well, and I mean, another thing that they need to address is spending on campaign stuff, because it's ridiculous. You shouldn't have to be a millionaire to run for your local legislative seat. You shouldn't have to be a millionaire to run for statewide office. And that's something I hope that our new GOP fixes, is the cost to even speak at a convention.
Yeah.
Because my fees, if we would have entered early enough, like I was a week late announcing, but I would have had to cough up $5,000 to speak at the Republican convention as a statewide candidate.
Yeah.
I don't know about you, but I don't got that sitting around.
No. No.
Jason, would you have $5,000?
I'm not the chairman.
I know you don't ask you. You're not the chairman. See, we tied it all together.
I just want you to know, I'm not the chairman of the North Dakota GOP, but right away after our latest chairman of the North Dakota GOP was elected, I immediately was talking on occasions on Thursday.
I think we're gonna lose you again, Jason. You're really breaking up.
But anyway, I was talking about how she ran.
Go off and sign in again, bud. We're catching every other word.
Well, how's this if I'm over here? Am I good now?
Yeah, now we can hear you.
There you go.
If I stay like this for 20 minutes, my back will be out. So maybe this will be the spot.
I think
But,
we're coming
you know,
in for a wrap-up spot.
Yeah.
Well, I just said in the time period since we have our new chairman now, some of these things should have been reversed already, because we want Americans to run for office who are conservative and Republican, and everything that was put in place is to beat these people down. And so I want to see action right now. Take these $5,000 fees away. Take all this stuff away and put us back on track to actually beat the opposition instead of beating ourselves. When is that going to happen?
I don't know, because last time they put those rules into play was back in December. It was December of 21 that they put all those rules into play.
Mm-hmm.
So do they have to wait until they do their next formal meetup in December, or is it something that can be done now?
Well, you know that when they don't want to change, when they don't want to change something, you have to wait. That's the code word. Well, we'll just have to wait to do that. But no, we should be accomplishing stuff right now. I heard today that the priority at the North Dakota GOP is cybersecurity. And quite frankly, you don't win elections on cybersecurity. We got to have people that want to run. We got to have good people that want to run. And you know what? If somebody hacks my Facebook account, I'll just say, well, they hacked my Facebook account, because that works with that other guy from Fargo all the time, So why don't we just try to get good people and not charge them $5,000? And let's continue to make state great.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, the other thing too is I really feel that they need to give the YRs back their seat at the table. Granted.
There's another one.
Yeah, because I mean,
there's another one.
Yeah. Because I mean, without the YRs, there's not a future on the Republican Party.
No.
And I'll say one last time, the priority should be to win elections. If cybersecurity is what you're going to bring to the GOP, you might as well not even be there.
I agree with you, Jason. I agree with you. And as much as the evidence and stuff that I've seen since we've gotten Dr. Frank involved in different things, if we don't fix our elections, we're done.
Yep.
And that means this election here. And that means this election right here in 2024.
Right.
Well, and what's crazy is when I got up and testified on Senator Magram's bills, I actually came in and testified on a couple of them. And Kirsten Roars was the chair for that committee. It was a tough room because it was Kirsten Roars, it was Judy Lee, and it was a couple others.
Kirsten Roars. Is it Shannon Roars, you mean?
No, Shannon's sister.
Oh, okay.
Nope.
So Senator Roars. And I started putting forward everything that I've collected, everything from auditors fighting me on returning information to signed affidavits from people from around the state. And then I played the audio. Well, I read the transcripts because they wouldn't let me play the audio of the conversations I had with the Cass County auditor and the Fargo City auditor about the 2020 elections. And I'm reading these transcripts, and Senator Roars was going, what they were doing is illegal. That's illegal. That's illegal. And when you have a senator sitting there listening to election integrity bills telling you what the people were doing was illegal, from transporting ballots in their cars to using a hotel for counting to
transporting them back to the safe.
Yeah. from an ES&S employee carrying the ballot stuff back to a county auditor. It's all there. So it's not even whether or not the election was stolen. Let's not even go from that aspect. The fact is there's still those stories. There's still that doubt. And until they fix that doubt in North Dakota, people aren't going to trust it. And that's where, like, you going and speaking at the summit's huge.
Yeah.
Because if you can't, we can't fix the nation, but we can fix North Dakota. And that's what it really comes down to.
Yeah, we got to start with our state.
Well, even like I suggested the other day that I would have been more comfortable with them putting ballot boxes at Walmart at the end of the cash register line than to put ballot boxes outside. There's no camera and no lights, and where people are putting their electric bills because that's where they think that they go, you know? Because you could always shop at Walmart, but you couldn't always go and vote, you know?
Right.
There's a future voter. Hey there.
Say hi to Jason.
And when I made that suggestion, hey there. And when I made that suggestion that they should have put the ballot boxes at the end of the cash register line at Walmart, well, everybody's like, well, I can't do that. Well, they can't do what they did. Yeah. There was more video and more security at Walmart than there was at the county buildings. And those ballot boxes are still sitting there.
I'll be honest with you, Jason. After seeing Dr. Frank and the data that he had, I'm more convinced that they didn't do it with the ballot boxes. They did it with the modems in the machines when they turned them off, and they knew exactly how many they needed, because it was like in every single state, it went up 10% from the time that they turned them machines off to the time they turned them back on.
Right.
That's, in my opinion, now looking at it, I think those ballot boxes and 2,000 mules was just, let's look over here. Well, this is what's really going to happen. This is where we're going to get them.
Yeah.
I might be wrong on that, but the more that I look into things and see stuff, excuse me, I think that's what's going on.
Yeah, well, that's where hand counting comes back into play.
Yeah.
I can see using the counters after you've done the hand count, just as a secondary verify your totals, but it shouldn't be your only and primary source.
Yeah, I agree.
So,
well,
fun.
Yeah,
all over the board.
It's been interesting. I do appreciate you being on, Jason.
You have anything else you want to put out there before we finish up?
No, I just said if you guys ever want me to come back on again, I like talking about multiple subjects. I mean, I literally do. And I listen to a lot of stuff every day. I know you guys do too. But
sounds good.
That's the fun of it. That's the fun of it.
Yes, we'll do this again. That's for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, we appreciate your time.
Yeah. Have a safe trip to Missouri.
Jason,
thank you. I appreciate it.
One quick question.
Yeah.
Can Sandy now, as GOP, get rid of proxy ballots for districts?
Absolutely.
I think that they need to make that a thing, because obviously it's happening.
Well, they say that the power is in the district, but the bylaws say that it's at the state level. So somebody needs to fix something. And then Robert's rules says that the proxy votes aren't allowed anyway, and we're supposed to be operating under Robert's rules.
Mm-hmm. Well,
I can't say the fellow's name, but I met with him down in Florida. He's a bigger wheel nationally. I can't think of what his name is. Maybe you can tell me. But I met him when we went down to Florida that time, and he said that since every 4 years or whatever, it's all new again in North Dakota, that they're supposed to go by Robert's rules.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Well, and I think they need to carve that in stone in front of the GOP office, but that's just me. No proxy votes.
Period.
Well, somebody
Period.
has to have the guts to do it. And I believe there's only 2 districts that use proxy votes.
The fact that it's happening in 2 is enough. Just like the fact that ranked choice voting in Fargo is happening. Can you take the whoopee cushion upstairs?
Yep.
He's not talking to me, by the way.
Yeah. Well, at the last meeting, I told them that they were going to need at least 100 live people there to go against the proxy votes, and they had almost, I think it was 75 proxy votes at the last meeting.
And that was just for you guys' committee chair, wasn't it? For your,
yeah, well,
for
I
your
said the Catholic cemetery looked a lot better after they went and took the names off of all of the, the tombstones, because sometimes you got to move the weeds off the tombstone. So it looked a lot better for a while at the Catholic cemetery in Wampanoag,
Oh.
Anyway, Jason, so you're behind, you think that this legislative apartment's a good deal?
I think it's a great deal. I think it's a great deal. And I've seen some of the election measures here, and that one actually looks better than most of the election measures I've seen this year.
Perfect. All right. Well,
not trying to sound mean. I'm just being honest with you.
We're gonna be getting hate mail now, aren't we?
Oh, probably.
Oh shoot. So, well, thanks again for your time, Jason. We appreciate it. We'll have to do it again soon.
Well, I could tell those guys at 1470 there in Harvey. I hate to put a plug out for them, but call anytime.
We will.
Okay.
You have a good night, bud.
Yeah, we'll see you later. Yeah.
That was Jason. So
that's interesting. The first way to do a show.
Yeah, we're both together in the same place, and
we got the cow room going on.
That thing was
famous during my campaign run.
I see that.
The cow on the couch.
So there you go. That's quite the picture there. So
yeah, Sarah had to have it. Yeah, baby.
So just before we sign off here, I know we talked a little bit about the Sons of Liberty and these other groups, but I really do want to give a shout out to my brothers and sisters in the Sons of Liberty, because without them, a lot of this wouldn't happen. We had Dr. Frank back here in February, and I was lucky enough I got to drive him around the state for 4 days, and those seminars wouldn't have happened without the people that helped me behind the scenes. And I want to let them know that I really appreciate everything that you guys have done. And just overall throughout the state, there's been a lot that we've accomplished in 3 years. We've helped with the fight in Grand Forks with Fu Fang. And like I said before, we've had
just the way you guys represented at the district or at the state convention was impressive.
Yeah, that was really awesome. And that was just a few people getting together and doing the work. And there's a lot of people involved that throughout the state that was a big thing, because I think it made a statement that we're not going to take this anymore. And, from the convention, that was in 21?
Yep.
To all the way to 23, just look at what we've done. Grassroots is hopefully taking over the North Dakota GOP. And this is one of the points that I'd like to make about getting involved, is because there was 5 of those seats, right?
Mm-hmm.
And 4 of those 5 were turned by 1 vote.
Yep.
1 vote. So that right there goes to show that your vote does count. Yes, our system is not perfect, but if we don't get involved, we're going to lose it all. So that would just be my parting words, is get involved.
My last closing thought on it. When I was going around collecting my signatures to submit for my run for office, I met this sweet older lady here in Bismarck that when Ed ran for governor the first time, she took him all over the state.
Mm-hmm.
And she told me, she goes, when we started what we were doing, it was because we wanted to remove the establishment.
Mm-hmm.
That was the whole goal of our current group of legislative representatives, was removing the establishment.
Mm-hmm.
And she looked me dead in the eye and she goes, "It makes me sad to see what we've become." And that's why she wanted to sign my petition, because she saw that fire, that hope from when they did it, when Ed ran, coming back in North Dakota and the grassroots movement. And that was awesome to hear.
Yep.
Yes, honey.
So just before we go again, I'll show this slide. This is going to be the event that I'm going to be at here. August 16th is day one. So it starts at 9 a.m. It'll go 9 to 9. They're going to start with some speakers. Rudy Giuliani, Mike Lindell, obviously. They're going to have Tina Peters there. There's going to be, it's going to be emceed by Brandon, I forget what his first name is. Steve Bannon.
There you go.
Steve Bannon, Mike Lindell, General Flynn is going to be there as well. So I encourage you guys, if you want to watch the event for the 2 days, go to the LindellEvent.com. You can use HTD. That's our promo code there. It's going to be free to watch. You'll actually get a electronic version of Mike Lindell's book. And so I really encourage you guys to at least have it on in the background, especially on day 2, August 17th, from 4 p.m. to 9 p.m. is going to be the plan, what the call to action is going to be, and how we're going to convert the plan to action. So I encourage everyone, whether you're Democrat, Republican, whatever you think that you are, I encourage you guys to tune into this and go from there. So with that, I will say good night.
Have a good night, everybody.
All right.